Right. So I thought I would do a little bit more streaming. I made some changes. Now I moved to the completions API instead of the assistance API, so I have more control. But I'm also like really diving hard into this. This is gonna be like the actual experiment. It's like, what would it look like? Like, are we moving to a world really like there's a huge hype with AI, and the question is, can they just automatically deal with anything with natural language? That would be really cool. And I guess that's most likely. But what if you rather wanted AI to not talk to you in natural language? That's not the important part. The important part is for you to be able to produce structured data, use AI to produce structured data. And then that structured data can be consumed and create a user experience. So what I'm doing now with the agents is that they're completely state driven. So you of course have the state, but then when you generate a prompt, the only thing you have is that like the actual prompt and then the state, and then you use the state to produce the prompt for the agent, very much like what we did. But when you generate a response, it's only state now. Uh, the agents never generate any human language response except if one of your states is related to that. So, for example, summary or something. So you kind of choose what parts needs to be like generative. Well, not generative, but human language. And then you decide what the response should be. And this creates a very predictable. Like the point is not to create like a human interaction. You're not discussing your mental health. You're trying to build a freaking app. And it doesn't help to have like different responses or anything like that. It's actually really good to have something very specific and structured back. So when I generate a response now, I could choose to choose like a human language state value, like a summary or something. But here, like this is the UX engineer, and you just give the response. And I'm also able to handle cases where for some reason it didn't suggest any user stories. That can happen. And stuff like that. So what happens now is I open it up. We're doing the same stuff again. And it's grabbing the application overview. So here you see, like for some reason, it didn't suggest any user stories, and that can happen. I have no idea why, but of course it can happen. So let me just try again, see what happens. Okay, great. Yeah, so this is, it also goes and get user stories, validate user stories. Like I don't understand why it does this. It just calls random functions. This was a really bad demo. And then it doesn't produce the correct output. I wonder why it does that. I wonder if it's like, should it be part of the prompting? I've seen, like, I searched forums and there are people experiencing this. And what I'm wondering is that this is where I think that the approach just completely fails, is that it's just confused by having this conversation state. It kind of primes it to think that it yeah, I'm not sure. I wonder if I reduce that. So it has a pretty high temperature. Like maybe that's why it's going wrong. Yeah, because that's the randomness on it, right? So maybe the randomness is also related to function calling. That could be. That is interesting. I haven't thought of that. Maybe that's why it calls it multiple times as well. No, that's not why it calls it. No idea why it calls it multiple times. That it makes absolutely no sense that it does that. But anyways, now we have some user stories, and I can say approve. And for some reason, it goes and grabs the application overview again, which I'm also like curious about. I wonder if we should keep in the state what functions are called. Or maybe get application overview is like just way too ambiguous. Because the prompt that I made now was, yeah, what's the prompt when? Yeah, so that's the thing. I approve these user stories. That's the only thing it got, right? And still it chose to go and grab the application overview. I find that very curious. And I only yeah, I approve these user stories. I find that very curious. But again, it's GPT 3.5. I think we need to just deal with some things. And the funny thing is, like, now it's completely context free. So the only thing that was in these messages was I approve these user stories with the state. There was no, well, it passed in the function get application overview, of course. Yeah, I'm trying to reason about why it chooses to call that function. It might think that the user stories are like get application overview. It's very generic. I think I'm gonna try to get application features description. Get a description of the application features. But you never know. You never know. And then get application features description. Yeah, let's just, I guess I can rename it. Get application features description. And then let's just change it here as well. I guess you're not happy with, oh my god. Reading application features description. But we're gonna hook into the UX engineer again and see what happens. Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, funny. Oh. Oh, it actually decided to the state of the conversation. That's interesting. Required suggested has user. Oh, that's interesting. So it did exactly what I wanted it to, except that it created its own JSON schema. Oh, that's funny. How could it do that? Hmm. Though I should probably the state of the conversation. I'm putting stuff in there just to try Markdown. Like Markdown is supposed to be much better. So I'm kind of I don't intentionally use it here for structure. I just use it. Current state. I think I should just. I can still have some structure, but conversation over. Conversation overview. Doesn't Markdown have these separators? I think so. But another thing, that's what I want to talk about. Like when I have this like very much AI to produce state perspective, there's no reason to actually send back here approved, to actually send the approval back to the agent. I could just like move on with the application. But anyways, so I approve these user stories. Okay, so now we're gonna bring in the UX engineer. Where are you at? UX engineer. That's engineer. Let's move engineer below the UX engineer. And then we're gonna bring back the UX engineer. I think it would be a lot of fun playing around with this API, like depending on what you want to build, of course. But I think it's what's it missing? Oh yeah, we need to give the initial state now. So you're front-end cares deeply about user experience, is an expert on web application user interfaces. You hate ambiguity. You resent ambiguity. Cool. So we have the suggested user stories. We're gonna use the same thing. Just has user approved user story. Oh, the user stories. And we're gonna have yeah. So this has a little bit higher temperature. So it's a very, very similar agent, right? So we're gonna copy this. It's basically just a different description. So this should never have an empty list. Over to an engineer. So this is interesting. Now I'm, how do I know if it's the first run? So I could add state here, just so now thinking about it from a state perspective, I could just add has responded or something. Because now I can't use the I want to We don't really need an overview of the application. The user story should not have. This is very interesting. So the prompt here is. Wait a minute. What is the prompt? Oh, I haven't thought about this. Run agent. Yeah, wait a minute. I've done something wrong here. I haven't thought this through. So, okay, I think we need to flip this around. At least for now. So this prompt, that might not be there. It will always have state, but it might not have the prompt there. It depends. Is it a user that's talking to you? Or is it an agent? Oh, this is interesting. No, sorry. So this should be the same. Sorry. It's this one that needs to be opposite. So we always have state, but we might not have a prompt. Oh, and then they share. Okay. New state. Let's call it new state. Okay. Prompt. Oh, but this doesn't. They don't have the same. They actually don't have the same signature, because no, wait a minute. This looks a little bit confusing. So this should always be a string and then override state. Yeah, so we shouldn't have iAgent here. I think we need to do this. And then new state is state S. So they have a little bit different signature. Because what you pass in, yeah, this is interesting. Oh, so it should be the opposite. Like, wait, fuck. This is. Now I'm super confused. So it should always generate a prompt, but it gets it from. No, it shouldn't have a prompt. But then how do you generate a prompt? Wait a minute. So we're gonna. I think I'm messing this up. What the hell am I thinking? So prompt. These are the same. God damn it. So this is gonna be iAgent. Override state. You know, I didn't even have my second coffee today because I feel like shit. God damn it, these kids, how they can waking up too early. So this is new state. That's always there. And then that thing, and then what's wrong down here? What did I do? So here we're generating, I'm doing something wrong. So I'm generating the prompt, but when I do run, okay, I think we have to say this in a different way. So we generate a prompt. Let's move back. Okay, so this was a problem, and we're gonna allow you to send an undefined prompt. Undefined. And as we saw, there might not be any state there either. Like you'll always have a state, but you might not send in state. So either you generate. You know what? We're gonna change this. So generate. So what we're doing, we are generating a prompt, but we're generating a prompt from either state. Oh, maybe this is right. This is never undefined. Like here it can be undefined. That's the thing. It's never undefined here, but it can be undefined here. You know what? I think we're gonna change this. And then we're gonna say prompt, and then we're gonna, it's just, this is bad API design. So you might get a text prompt, but that's only when it comes from a user. And then we should say prompt. So this API is not like, that's the thing. We're returning something else. So does it need to know the temperature? Yes, it does. Does it need to return the state? Yes, it does. On the model and description functions. Okay, it needs to return everything. But what we're going to do, we're going to have two different methods. New state. So what are we going to call this? I think we're just going to call this prompt. And it doesn't have any state. It just has the prompt, which is a string. And there's no like, it just uses the last state. Like that. And then we should be able to just set state. That's the thing. Well, it's not set state. We are prompting, but we're prompting. You know what? Prompt. So this can be a string, or it can be the state. So type of prompt equals string. Then we're going to do this. Okay, and we should type of prompt equals string. That means we're not changing the state. Generated prompt. Let generated prompt is a string. Okay, this makes sense. So generated prompt equals that, else equal well, last state equals prompt or state. And then this is nothing. So the point is, when you define an agent, you know if that agent can be, or actually that's the way to actually evaluate what you want to do, or what kind of response or prompt you want to generate. So agent generate prompt. Wait, fuck, what happened now? Oh, did I say generate prompt? Oh, this should just be prompt, I guess. Why did it say generate? Why did it allow generate? Oh, this is interesting. Oh, fuck. This has a different. For fuck's sake. So iAgent is something else. iAgent is prompt or state. Should I call this? Okay, let's call it generate prompt. This is like a internal generate. This is an internal iAgent definition. So this is something else. AI agent. Where is it from now? So the AI agent takes prompt or state as its prompt data or param, but the iAgent definition. So this is iAgent definition. That's something else. So that means here. Does this help in any way? I feel like I'm encoding myself into a corner now. Ugh. So I know that the product manager always gets a prompt because you can't like move to it. Interesting how it says that the prompt is always there. That's not true. Yeah, it doesn't. I think I have some bad TypeScript typing. Anyways, I'm not gonna care about that. Let's just move on with the thing. Why are you not? Oh yeah, prompt. So here we know that We know that we always start out with some user stories because this is how, yeah, this is not super intuitive. Oh, is this a UX engineer? Sorry, I should have gone. Oh, yeah, sorry. Of course, it's UX engineer. Yeah. I think those should be two different. Like now we split up the typing, so I think that's better. We should really state explicitly if we are generating prompt from a prompt or are we generating prompt from state. That's also a little bit weird because sometimes a user might prompt, other times, yeah, I don't feel great about this. Something good will come out of this. Always does. But yeah. Maybe we should try this first. So I know. So I know for the product manager, there will always be a prompt here. But for the UX engineer, there's not always a prompt there. At least initially, there is no prompt. But that's very implicit. So you could argue it's a way to it's also a way to say it's an agent call. So if no prompt, or it's really interesting because you're flipping between calling between agents and sometimes you want user input. Yeah, this is interesting. So if there's no prompt, so if we do have a prompt, we're going to say prompt, or we're not going to do anything. The user story, please update the user stories. Please suggest updates to the user stories. Again, these things can be much better engineered, these prompts, but let's I want to click a blue button with the label hello. As a user, I want to what happened? To see a list of items with yeah, I want to see a list of items, whatever. Okay, let's try this. Let's bring back the handover. So we have product manager, UX engineer. Oh, no, this is wrong. Why is this wrong? Didn't I say iAgent on the create agent? Oh, iAgent NFS. Wasn't it? Oh, it was still generate prompt. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, good thing we checked that. What did I? Oh yeah, sorry. So now we have the UX engineer, product manager, UX engineer, request for change. Oh my god. So if product manager. Oh. What's this? Oh, there we go. As user approved user stories. Moving on to as user false. Okay. Okay, let's see how this works. I feel like taking one step forward, 3 steps back all the time. It's almost like, oh, interesting. Now we're getting this error. True. Embedder. How far did you actually get? So you got to this one. So there seems to be something happening here. So I'm gonna try to so it actually got through this. Okay, so we're gonna try see if it actually gets there. So if we don't get any next time it freezes, we know it's something to do with this. That's a good narrowing down. That is a good narrowing down. Let's see. Sorry, I just need to answer a question. Yeah, so it's interesting how when it's this state driven, that like the approval there is really just stating get on to the next part of the flow. But currently the flow is defined based on agent responses. So maybe that's a bad idea. Maybe there shouldn't even be an explicit API for defining an agent flow. Or at least not a callback. It should rather be maybe events or something. So you create an agents flow, you kind of create agents, and then you just create the agents, and then you listen to when they respond. So that means that you can also go in and manually trigger stuff in the flow. I think that makes more sense. At least if this pans out to be something valuable. Because then I can just click approve and we just run the next agent. But then it's also like, how do you know the current state of the flow? I guess you would have like current agent, and then you could check, is the current agent name product manager? Do we have a length on the user stories? Okay, go ahead. This is fine. Okay, approve. At least it did the handover. Now something else broke. It's too short. Oh, tools. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Add message. Where's this? Here. Add message. So it turns out functions.length or undefined. I did not know that. That's kind of weird though, that you can't pass like an empty array. That's weird. Unnecessary. Okay, approve. Oh. That was much of a... What the hell happened there? Oh, yeah. This is, of course, a challenge. Because it can easily infer that by passing this in that you have... But what does that mean? Let me hand you over to an engineer. Or PM. So what the hell does it actually send? So we're prompting the agent with the suggested user stories. And that means when we're generating the prompt here, we're saying if there's no prompt, yeah, I think we're gonna if no prompt, let's just suggest some user stories. So there is no prompt here. Please update the user stories, blah blah blah, with user interface elements. And the question is, it says that has user approved. So I think this is kind of the challenge. It's like by having this state concept, it makes sense for the list of user stories, but it doesn't make sense for evaluating the prompt. It's almost like because every time we send a message, it's like without context, kind of. Yeah, I'm gonna try something. Did user. That's an interesting thing. Like, it would be so interesting to be able to extract. So imagine like you're sending a prompt to an AI, and then you're giving it a JSON schema, and then you want to extract specific things about that prompt. So for example, in this case, I want to extract, did the prompt indicate that you approve the user stories? Like, maybe that's way too ambiguous. But it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. Because a natural language response gives you absolutely nothing. Like in terms of acting on things. Did user. I think I'm gonna say prompt. Being even more explicit. I wonder if that's like a, could be a pattern. But yeah, I'm really I'm feeling I'm all over the place now. Okay, approve. Yeah, it immediately just, yep, you approve the user stories. I didn't quite do that. Yeah, no, this doesn't. How could we do that? One thing is for prompt engineering to ensure that we're updating state, and this is like long-lived state. But then there's also flags. It's like prompt flags. So you can kind of ask, there's things you want to know about the prompt. I want to try something. Like I have to remember, we're just playing and exploring. So what if you had state, and that's considered long-lived state, and then you would have you would have prompt schema, which are just flags. Like, did you say purple? Did you indicate something that's purple? Like, that's the kind of flag you would want. But even if you did that, how would we pass that in? So you have the state, a long-lived state, and then you might have the prompt, and then so on generate prompt, you might or might not have. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe there's a way to. Okay, we're gonna try something. So prompt is gonna be an object of. Yeah, let's try this. I'm gonna flags indicating flags. Bleh. I don't have a language for this. Oh my god, my head. Prompt. Include the flag, not flags. State or data extracted from the actual prompt. Approval of user stories. Like, I mean, we have to start somewhere. If the prompt included an approval of the user stories. So prompt approval false. Oh my god, we're so like out there. We have a high temperature now. This is some random shit. Okay, so this is that kind of actually worked. Well, it depends. It depends. It depends. So, oh, false. The reason we didn't see the user stories is because of this. Up here? No, where are you? User stories. Or a message from engineer and message not. Oh, parentheses state prompt. Huh? Okay, those were some interesting suggestions. Oh, wait. No, where the hell did I get that from? Create a new account? Why didn't it actually use completed as a user? Oh, the prompt undefined. Okay, that doesn't help. Where is the state? Current state undefined, and the prompt is undefined. Okay, that explains it. Why the hell was it undefined? Okay, so I definitely have a bug here. So we're running the agent. Oh, sorry. My bad. That's the bug. Let's see if it behaves better. Ah, so annoying that it makes the function call multiple times. It doesn't make... well, you didn't actually do anything, did you? What was the prompt? Oh, undefined. That's why? Why is the prompt undefined? What did I do? So run agent. You're getting prompt or state in. Oh, for fuck's sake. Me and my coding skills. No wonder it had some issues. No wonder. Oh, it's still getting there. Let's look at the embedder. So it's actually still able to get, but it never gets this stuff. That's the thing. It can definitely not be a reducer. Code JSON. It never got to summary. So, what, is it this thing that does it? That's weird. It could be the stringify of the code. Could definitely be. Oh, that's also weird. Could just be random. Improve. Okay, as I want to click a button label describe task to describe a task. I don't like that. As I want to click a button label add task to list. That's nice. And then delete task to delete task. As a user, I want to write a task in an input. See, interesting how it's not like able to reason about this, the very specifics here of adding a task. Like, why would you want to click a button to start describing a task? Write the task description in an input. Since I want to click a button labeled add task to add, I think it's enough with add. I want to see a list of tasks displayed on the screen. What does it do now? That's nice. It's doing what I wanted to. Again, delete. As easier, I want to click a button labeled tasks in the list. So again, we can prompt engineer this thing to like really push the user and be very detailed, but we really just wanted to. Yeah, so now I'm curious. If I click approve, nice. So that actually worked. That is very interesting. So I'm thinking, let's just keep it as a pattern for now. The prompt. But it's very interesting that you can like deduce, is that the word? Deduce the actual details of the prompt. Anyway, so do we have time for this? Create agents flow. Let's bring in the engineer. So we're gonna try that last thing, and what we're gonna jump into after that, after we have the flow back in shape, is basically prompt engineering the hell out of this thing. And let's see. So this is very much I'm just gonna grab everything from here. Boop. Yeah, prompt engineer to kind of improve them. And the goal is to, by the end of the round, we're gonna have some really good user stories. And when we reach a relatively okay level on that, Uh, we're just going to copy those user stories. Oh, hey, Jacob. That's cool. Yeah, it's like what I love about this AI stuff is that this is the first time, like, not everyone could be part of the initial push for AI. Like, it's so deep technical and complicated and very much like academic. But now it feels like the whole freaking engineering community is trying to figure out what the hell are we going to do with this technology. And there's so many different approaches and so many different use cases, and AI can be applied to freaking everything. So yeah, I really love, like, it's so vibrant, everything that's happening now, and you don't have to be, and at the point we've gotten to now, you don't have to have deep understanding um, of AI. It's kind of, it doesn't even have to be this specific, but it's like generally, it's not healthy to have. I notice this all the time in product development. If I get too deep technically, I lose perspective on actual user value. I think that's kind of the case here as well. It's like, if you know too much about how AIs work, you kind of lose a little bit perspective, not perspective, but yeah, there's not that much randomness, maybe. I think a lot of people don't feel super confident in what they're doing and just trying out different things, and some things will stick and some things won't stick. So yeah, this is my, like, very narrow take on things. It's like, what if we could reliably get this agent to respond with a JSON, like a state object? Oh, agency, and we build so many projects, small and big, and there's, yeah, exactly. And yeah, and for you, it would be super exciting to, I guess, you meet somewhat similar scenarios and requirements, and then being able to build like a toolbox to, like, more efficiently, like, apply, not necessarily apply AI in the products of the customers, but use AI as part of your toolbox to create experiences of the customers. That can be taken over, at least partially, by yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like the over the next year, so much, it's gonna be epic. It's gonna be really epic. And I don't see. I feel like I'm, like, excusing my little experiment here all the time, but it's, yeah, I don't see any value in what I'm doing here. I think that's why I'm excusing it. But it's just interesting to see, because you want reliability. That's the thing. Like, LLMs are kind of completely unreliable, and how can you make them reliable? Um, that's the thing. That's the interesting thing. Um, yeah. So the thing is, like, it all started with some research at where I work, at Code Sandbox, because we have the infrastructure to, like, do things like Devin, for example, but in the cloud. But there is this thing about, like, I don't think we're there where you can just, so for us, like, the ultimate goal would be, what if you could go to your dashboard on Code Sandbox, you have your repo imported there, but instead of, like, creating a branch to jump into the editor and do traditional coding, what if you could just prompt in the dashboard that, oh, go and do this, and then we would just spin up a VM in the background and have an agent running around doing its thing, and you will kind of you will be able to track what it's doing on the dashboard, and it will be able to notify you if there was some user intervention that was needed. And then I started, like, seeing, like, can you actually build web applications with the current state of AIs and agents workflow and all this stuff. And the challenge with web applications is the validation. Like how does it validate? One thing is writing a unit test for a pure function. Like it can do that to validate its work, but what about actually starting a web application, authenticating and validating all the interactions and everything? I just don't see that. So then I thought, okay, what if we narrow it down like super as much as possible and give as much access as possible? So that's why I built this Electron app, where it's like hard-coded template of Firebase Vue and Tailwind CSS. It's actually, this is actually a web browser on the right side here. You can like draw stuff. It can capture what's going on in the browser here. And I had many different like perspectives and iterations on this. And then I got completely stuck in this. Okay, what if we have these specific workflows that support each other? So you have a user who doesn't know how to code at all. They just go in and describe something they want. So then you go into user story workflow, where the agents are only there to like reduce as much ambiguity as possible and create as much details as possible about how the UI should look like, what files is included in the project that needs to be changed, and state management, persistence, authentication, stuff like that. And then see if we're actually able to do that with GPT 3.5, because I spent like 300 euros with GPT-4. So I was like, no. Yeah, exactly. Refine. Just refine. And then kind of isolate that in a workflow and even store the user stories, because it's just JSON, right? Predictable JSON now. Just store it and then put it in a list, and then you can click the user stories and say, create implementation plan. And that's the input for the next workflow. And then iterate on that workflow. Like, how good of an implementation plan can we build off of some pretty good user stories that happen to be actually generated by this other workflow? And then if we can get pretty far there, that, okay, this is a solid implementation plan. Okay, let's try now to actually put that into an implementation workflow, and see what happens there. And if they can do like a relatively good job there, they will make mistakes. That's fine. But then there's the validation workflow. Like, how good could you make that based on the implementation? So yeah, taking it in steps. I've kind of been all over the spectrum of these workflows now, and now I'm like honing in on like the very specific workflows, where I'm currently at the first one, getting stuck in type errors and yeah. But it's really cool. Yeah, without any ambiguity. Exactly. I'm talking a lot about ambiguity. Yeah, it's all about efficiency. The better the data. Yeah, less time invested in team and refining grooming ceremony. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's super interesting. And then just the fact that I've heard that just by resending the prompt, you can actually get better results. So even though here it's more like natural, like you think about these different agents having these different roles and contributing with different things to reduce ambiguity and kind of build up everything, it's also like you can hack it a bit by each agent like resending the prompt and like validating their own thing. And like there's so much stuff in this, but yeah. Yeah, so the way I control hallucinations now, I don't think, at least it's a reduction. The way I understand hallucinations has a lot to do with the size of the context window. So you want a huge ass context window, or you would think you would want a huge ass context window, because then it can like predict better what it's supposed to do next. But that's also what can cause hallucinations, as I understand it. So I'm like experimenting with not having a context window, which sounds insane. But the point is that the state represents the context window. So each agent has its state that you define and builds up that state. And that is always part of the context. And then they have function calls, of course, to For example, go and get an overview of the application, go and read files, and so on and so on. But I'm very curious how narrow of a task they can act on, as long as they have the ability to build up the rest of the context based on that task, instead of having like the whole so for example, with this workflow, instead of having the context isn't like all the user stories, all the conversations on user stories, all the conversation on the implementation plan, all the stuff happening during implementation to kind of do the validation. It's just like, it's a very specific input that goes to the validation, and then it just has functions to help it do that validation. Yeah, grounding. I heard that term. What's grounding? It's like prompt engineering, like a type of prompt engineering. Oh shit! I actually have a meeting. I have to go. Oh my god! Now we just started a conversation. Yeah. Okay. Let's please comment, and I'll read the comments later. But I have to go to a meeting. But yeah, maybe I'll see you back here on the next stream. Thanks, and a happy quest for AI toolbox. Oh, what happened there? Oh no, what did I do? Anyways. Okay, bye.